पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी के निधन ने हम सभी के हृदय को गहरी पीड़ा पहुंचाई है। उनका जाना एक राष्ट्र के रूप में भी हमारे लिए बहुत बड़ी क्षति है। विभाजन के उस दौर में बहुत कुछ खोकर भारत आना और यहां जीवन के हर क्षेत्र में उपलब्धियां हासिल करना ये सामान्य बात नहीं है। अभावों और संघर्षों से ऊपर उठकर कैसे ऊंचाइयों को हासिल किया जा सकता है, उनका जीवन ये सीख भावी पीढ़ी को देता रहेगा। एक नेक इंसान के रूप में, एक विद्वान अर्थशास्त्री के रूप में और रिफॉर्म्स के प्रति समर्पित लीडर के रूप में उन्हें हमेशा याद किया जाएगा। एक अर्थशास्त्री के रूप में उन्होंने अलग अलग स्तर पर भारत सरकार में अनेक सेवाएं दी। एक चुनौतीपूर्ण समय में उन्होंने रिजर्व बैंक के गवर्नर की भूमिका निभाई। पूर्व प्रधानमंत्री भारत रत्न श्री पीवी नरसिम्हा राव जी की सरकार के वित्त मंत्री रहते हुए उन्होंने वित्तीय संकट से घिरे देश को एक नई अर्थव्यवस्था के मार्ग पर प्रशस्त किया। प्रधानमंत्री के रूप में देश के विकास में और प्रगति में उनके योगदान को हमेशा याद किया जाएगा। जनता के प्रति, देश के विकास के प्रति उनका जो कमिटमेंट था उसे हमेशा बहुत सम्मान से देखा जाएगा। डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी का जीवन उनकी ईमानदारी और सादगी का प्रतिबिंब था। वो विलक्षण सांसद थे। उनकी विनम्रता, सौम्यता और उनकी बौद्धिकता उनके संसदीय जीवन की पहचान बनी। मुझे याद है कि इस साल की शुरुआत में जब राज्यसभा में उनका कार्यकाल समाप्त हुआ, तब मैंने कहा था कि सांसद के रूप में डॉक्टर साहब की निष्ठा सभी के लिए प्रेरणा जैसी है। सत्र के समय अहम मौकों पर वो व्हीलचेयर पर बैठकर आते थे, अपना संसदीय दायित्व निभाते थे। दुनिया के प्रतिष्ठित संस्थानों की शिक्षा लेने और सरकार के अनेक शीर्ष पदों पर रहने के बाद भी वो अपनी सामान्य पृष्ठभूमि के मूल्यों को कभी भी नहीं भूले। दलगत राजनीति से ऊपर उठकर उन्होंने हमेशा हर दल के व्यक्ति से संपर्क रखा, सबके लिए सहज उपलब्ध रहे। जब मैं मुख्यमंत्री था तब डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी के साथ राष्ट्रीय और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय अनेक विषयों पर उनसे खुले मन से चर्चाएं होती थी। यहां दिल्ली आने के बाद भी मेरी उनसे समय समय पर बात होती थी, मुलाकात होती थी। मुझे उनसे हुई मुलाकातें, देश को लेकर हुई चर्चाएं हमेशा याद रहेगी। अभी जब उनका जन्मदिन था तब भी मैंने उनसे बात की थी। आज इस कठिन घड़ी में मैं उनके परिवार के प्रति अपनी संवेदनाएं व्यक्त करता हूं। मैं डॉक्टर मनमोहन सिंह जी को सभी देशवासियों की तरफ से श्रद्धांजलि अर्पित करता हूं।
So that was Prime Minister Narendra Modi offering his tributes to former Prime Minister of the country, Dr. Manmohan Singh, who passed away at the age of 92 at AIIMS in the national capital. And he was saying that, history will always remember Dr. Singh as someone who was devoted, who was committed to reforms. He was somebody who took the economy out of the challenging times as the RBI governor. He opened up the economy as the finance minister in 1991. And his commitment will always be seen with a lot of respect. Viewers, a thinker, scholar, economist and a gentleman politician, former Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh is no more. He took his last breath at the age of 92 at All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi, where he was admitted yesterday. And those are the visuals that we are bringing for you, where leaders are offering their tributes. We had Prime Minister Narendra Modi offering his tributes to Dr. Manmohan Singh and offering his condolences to the family of Dr. Singh. We are now joined by former RBI Governor, Mr. Urjit Patel. Sir, thank you very much for speaking with us here on Times Now. Firstly, what are your thoughts today and how will you like to remember Dr. Manmohan Singh?
At the outset, my condolences to the family, of course. Well, from a professional perspective, I used to interact with him a fair bit because he was on the standing parliamentary panel of finance. So I met him as late as 2018 before I stepped down. And what I would remember the most is his commitment to the technocratic autonomy, the analysis and the policy stance of the Reserve Bank of India. During those deliberations in the standing parliamentary panel, on more than one occasion, he would control, if that's the word, overzealous members of that panel by saying that the RBI governor did not answer that question. So that's my, encapsulates his views on preserving the autonomy of the Reserve Bank of India, and it was symptomatic of his lifelong commitment to the importance of economic advice by experts. And many of us in my age group and those who are older to me owe him a lot for his support and help towards professional economists who joined the government system and many who worked in the private sector. So that's my professional recollection that summarizes my respect of Dr. Manmohan Singh as a outstanding public servant, economist, and policymaker who helped with his clarity of vision and an eye for details to usher India in the early 1990s into the global economy as a participant and as a confident partner that India was now open for business, and it would help the world and the world would help us. And I think that is his most important contribution, that India could no longer be an inward-looking economy with a lot of price controls and regulation, especially on the external payments. Bringing in a market-based exchange rate for the Indian rupee,
yes,
I think was one of the 2 or 3 most important things that we accomplished in the early 90s, and which has stood us in a very positive way for 30 years and has anchored our economic progress.
Well, absolutely. And as a journalist covering the Ministry of Finance and Reserve Bank of India at that point in time, I remember a meeting as well of the parliamentary panel on demonetization specifically and how he came to your rescue. Any anecdote that you can share with us? And if you could just tell us, like, what did he tell you after that?
Well, he used to meet us for a few minutes before or after the formal meeting of the panel. And at that point, he would actually discuss the wider macroeconomic picture. It was very remarkable that that he was on top of the facts and usually learned more from him than he probably learned from those of us who were doing this as a full-time job, in a manner of speaking. So it was always a joy to talk to him about economics, and the informal discussions before or after the parliamentary panel where he would meet me were always a joy and something to look forward to.
Well, and we also know, Mr. Patel, that how he wore many hats. He's been the RBI governor, he was the finance minister, then he became the prime minister of this country as well. As a student of economy, as an economist yourself, what are the key takeaways with how he was, say, as the RBI governor, as the finance minister, and as the prime minister?
I think the most important aspect that he brought in as a high-level technocrat were the issues around what we would call collateral consequences of policies, and that perspective is very important at the level at which he has played an astonishingly positive role for our country as a policymaker. And I think he had a great sense of knowing beforehand what would work, what was worth taking a risk, and what would not work. So I think that is something that was pure wisdom.
You also became the Reserve Bank of India governor. Any one quality of Dr. Singh that perhaps inspired you, or something that you always, followed or remembered when you were in the Reserve Bank of India?
Well, I think that the most important thing that he used to tell me when I met him after, I used to meet him also as a deputy governor. When I was in charge of monetary policy, and he was fully supportive of having a very clear inflation goal for the RBI, he endorsed the monetary policy framework that we introduced in 2016, and I think as RBI governor, at the time that he was governor, he probably was thinking along these lines that a price stability anchor for RBI's monetary policies was critical for our country, not just in terms of monetary policy, but for a broader stability and having a predictable stance on how much money we print.
Interesting. And I also remember, sir, that after you resigned, he released a statement as well where he expressed sadness, and he said that this is a severe blow to the Indian economy. How did that make you feel?
Well, it was an emotional thing that he said. Emotional for me, that is. He was one of the first persons who called me after 5 p.m. on December 10th, 2018, when I stepped down. His first words were, "If I was okay." So that was the mark of it.
And I can see, sir, that has brought those emotions back as you're speaking with us. What were your thoughts at that point in time, and how did, the way he spoke about you, like I said in the past, in 2017, he came to your rescue, I mean, that made headlines as well. So can you explain to us the relationship you shared with him specifically? Because it's not just that you interacted with him because of work, but, the way he spoke about you, it also showed that, there was a relationship, a rapport that both of you shared beyond the work too.
Well, he was instrumental in my being inducted into the policy ecosystem of India. I mean, he would write a letter of reference for me when the time came on more than one occasion. So there was a personal connection, and I think it started when I was the member of the IMF team that worked on the India standby arrangement in the early 90s. And that is when we started meeting. That would be from 92 onwards. And I recall that he was very happy when I shared with him that I would like to continue working on the Indian macroeconomy.
And when was the first meeting with him? Do you recall that?
I suspect it would be in the middle or second half of 92, because that is when I joined the India desk at the IMF in Washington, D.C. I joined in 1991, and so it would have been soon after that I would have met him as part of the team that negotiated with our authorities the India program, the standby arrangement of that time. So over 30 years, I've known him.
And so, a lot has been said about him when he became the Prime Minister. He himself, said that I honestly believe that history will be kinder to me than the contemporary media. He was called as the weak Prime Minister, accidental Prime Minister, reluctant Prime Minister. Those kind of comments, what did those make you feel? And did you ever have a conversation with him about these kind of issues? Because he was very... he was not very vocal on these issues, but we all could feel with, these statements coming in from time to time that as a human being, perhaps how all this was making him feel.
No, I never discussed this with him. Our conversations were on the Indian economy, and this never came about.
But as somebody who has perhaps worked with him very, very closely on some of the biggest policy issues in the country that, form the foundation for the kind of growth that we are seeing today, how did those make you feel at that point in time?
I don't think that these are fair comments. That's what I would like to say, and leave it at that, because I think that as a policy maker, as a public servant, and finance minister and prime minister, his contributions to India are remarkable. And what we did in the early 90s really is the linchpin of the kind of economic progress that we have accomplished over the last 30 years.
In your opinion, what was the biggest policy measure that will be credited to Dr. Manmohan Singh during his tenure, be it as the finance minister or as the prime minister of this country?
I think the most important policy in the early 90s that he helped to usher in was the opening up of the Indian economy. We were one of the most protected economies in the world at that time, and that is not an exaggeration. And an approach that gave primacy to markets. And I think having a market-determined exchange rate is extremely important because, in a way, trying to fix exchange rates at particular values creates problems for the rest of the economy. And he was completely aware of this, and so that particular distortion of having fixed exchange rates and doing away with it and moving to a market-based exchange rate in the early 90s and accepting our obligations, Article 8 obligations with the IMF, that we would have an open current account of the balance of payments. Right. I think this is, in my humble opinion, the most important. I'm sure there are, doing away with the whole license permit Raj with one stroke of the pen, in a way that was the domestic mirror of what we did externally.
Right. One last question, Mr. Patel. I know it's a very, very emotional moment for you as we are speaking right now. But one word that you would like to use to describe Dr. Manmohan Singh as a human being, as somebody who has, laid the foundation for sustained growth for our economy, as the finance minister, as the former prime minister of this country. How will you like to describe him? As he's no longer there amongst us?
I think he was the thinking man's intellectual, and that formed the basis of his entire career as a public servant for our country. He was, as many people would tell you, he was also a very kind man, and always had time for people to have a chat with him. He was particularly partial towards economists, and so in a way he brought a kind of intellectual commitment to making our country better.
All right. Well, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Urijit Patel. I really appreciate you joining us here on Times Now and sharing with us your perspective and how you think the history should really remember Dr. Manmohan.